Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're going to be jumping down into the world of XRP, taking a look at what's been going on most recently and what we think is likely to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. And, if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, guys, check it out. Linked in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. So why not go ahead and check it out? Let's jump right down on into this one then. So I'm going to start things on this view, which is basically just the thumbnails of the videos that we've been doing recently for XRP, just to kind of reflect on whether or not these are correct kind of things that I've been talking about, or maybe I got something wrong. And it does look like this one here was a bit premature. We did have a small drop, but it was nothing in comparison to what I was actually thinking was going to happen during this move here. We were actually targeting a little bit on the lower side. So yeah, I marked that one up. That's my bad. And it just didn't play out that way. We actually had a pretty significant run to the upside. But again, these are the things when it comes to XRP, specifically a lot of FOMO around the end of March. Obviously, the end of March has come and gone, and still haven't really had that kind of big bang that I guess so many people are craving when it comes to XRP. But I've drawn the arrow in for this video. I don't know what the thumbnail looks like yet, but I will drop that on there. And let's get right down into this. We're going to take a look at a couple of things. We'll take a look at Elliott wave theory. There's some interesting kind of developments there. We'll take a look at the smart money concepts, and we'll take a look at the macro views as well. So let's start things off with the Elliott wave theory side of things. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to kind of reflect on here in this this chart is there's a number of 5-wave counts that are going on and their positioning, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So what we'll do is we'll start with that. So we have a diagonal here, right down at the bottom. We can kind of see this one, right? So the 12th of March up towards the 14th of March, we had the diagonal. We came down correctively. That's not a problem. Then we had a 5-wave count going up. Okay, the 5-wave count coming up, 3-wave coming down, another 5-wave going up. Okay, so by all intensive purposes, it's really easy for us to see that we haven't met our requirements for this area just in here to be a wave 3. Okay, so we know this is not a wave 3. So we think of this maybe as a wave 1, wave 2, then a wave 3, down for a wave 4, but then we haven't got that kind of eureka moment where we see a nice big push to the upside under a 5th wave, right? So we don't see that there. Instead, what we have is a 5-wave move upwards, corrective down again, another 5-wave move coming up, and again, this is very typical of a zigzag pattern. Then we go down, and then we come up again, and then we drop down, and then we go up again, right? So one of the things that's really important about we have to understand here, let me grab my pencil. In fact, I'll try to use the 5-wave counter straight. So if we're looking for a 5th wave movement, our 5th wave movement should contain 5 waves, which when you break that down should be a 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, right? And we have 5 waves coming up here. So straight off the bat, we want to think of wave 1. Then we come down correctively, and then we want to look for a wave 3. But in here, we don't really have a strong wave 3. In fact, if anything, we're still in it, and we have to kind of push up, then we have a wave 4, then we have a wave 5 still to come, that kind of thing. However, I think this is getting less and less likely to be a thing, and less likely to play out as we look for these impulsive structures. Now, these impulsive structures are the easiest ones to understand because a lot of people talk about them, and essentially they are interesting, right? And in the way that they're really bullish or they're really bearish, right? That's kind of like the go-to thing. Everyone talks about 5 waves in Elliott wave theory, but they don't fully understand what actually is going on within the 5-wave count. So in the 5-wave structure, really what is going on here is it's a trend-based structure, right? It dictates a trend either up or down, doesn't really matter which direction, and it is driven usually from institutional investors really driving that wave 3 past 1.618 times that of the wave 1, right? So pretty typical kind of stuff and easy to kind of get your head around. However, what people don't seem to fully grasp is that these 5-wave structures also appear in corrective structures, and not everything is impulsive at a much bigger scale, right? And so what I'm going to kind of talk about here a little bit is we've either got a really bullish structure that is nesting down like insanely well, and we're going to be looking at some really big push to the upside, right? So let's kind of reflect on that. We can see in here, we can just quite quickly do a 5-wave structure right in here. That quite easily would be a wave 3. But then we have this really deep wave 4 situation. It's not quite got to invalidation. That would be happening right about here at 48.8, right? So coming down would basically void that idea altogether. However, I think it's actually probably a little bit more important to reflect on something else that's going on here, at least in my opinion. And that is that we could potentially be looking at some double zigzag patterns playing out. And these double zigzags could be that bearish situation, right? So when we have all these kind of 5-wave stacks coming up here, we could argue that actually what's occurring is a linked amount of zigzag patterns. And we can still be pushing up a little ways here. I'm not going to say that we can't, because we definitely have corrected down on momentum, but it doesn't really look like to me that we have a very clear impulsion to the upside. Instead, it looks like we have a lot of 5-wave counts that are mirroring that of the impulsive structure without actually hitting those key levels. So for neatness, this definitely doesn't look neat at all, right? We'd have a wave 1, 2, and well, we'd still have to be in play for this big wave 3, right? And it's possible that we are, and this is a wave 4, and that's a wave 5, right? But then inside this wave 3 here, we have no clear 5-wave structure at the end yet. So it could be that this wave 3 still has to go up much further before we can even kind of lock it in, right? So it could be something to that effect. It just seems a little far-fetched, considering the size of the wave 1 being reasonably small, that this is what's going on, right? We'll be pushing far too high, way above and beyond the normal 1.618. So instead, I'm thinking to myself, actually, is what's going on here more in line with zigzag structures, and they're being strung together? And if we take a look at it, we can see here that this would be a pretty typical kind of zigzag pattern, right? We correct down, and then we have this one here, comes up nice and big, come down here, and then I think inside this pattern, we can see maybe an extension that takes us to here. It wouldn't be too far-fetched if we were to kind of think about this structure. And if I come down here, let me just anchor this in. So take a look at this. Yep, right on there. There we go. Okay, and then we move this over. We move it over to this low point just here. And we can see right up here, we've come up and we've rested on the 1.272, and so a little bit above and beyond what you would normally expect. And a 1.272 is another part of Elliott wave theory. So again, I think that there's more of a corrective structure to this than an impulsive structure to this. And even if we were to kind of look at this and we'd start to think, okay, well, are we in that wave 3 situation? We don't really have, let me put that back, right? We put this back up here. We can see that we have to hit 64 cent before we can actually start thinking about this as a wave 3 that we're currently in. And whereas that is possible if we're in a wave 4 right now, we could possibly just about do it, literally just by like 0.8 or 0.008 in fact. So real close to it, like it would cut the wire to kind of like really kind of get that one in there. And I'm not sure that that's something that we can kind of realistically see. So I'm thinking to myself, we can push up higher, we sure can. You know, we've got this correction coming down right now, which does mean that the next move is likely to be to the upside. But essentially, I don't think this is a trend. I think this is a series of corrective structures that contain little mini trends inside them. And other than that, I'm not overly impressed by it. Now, if we come into this kind of structure here, I'll tell you the biggest concern that I have is that we have this interesting kind of corrective structure here, and we have a pretty clear drop in here as well, right? And we can kind of see this potentially being a 5-wave count. We'll just check it to see if that is or is not. It's always important that we do these sense checks because it helps us make sure that we're aligned. And no, it's not. So that's actually pretty typical. So I'm not too concerned with that. That does look like 3. So for the most part, that's kind of like there, right, thereabouts. And what we'll do is we'll do some of the checks on the macro level of that rather than just the internal counts. We can see that we've come down to the 1-to-1. We can still come down a fraction more if we needed to, more towards that kind of 48.8 cent area. But for the most part, it does look like we have to be thinking about a move upwards. Okay, so we might go sideways over the weekend a little bit, but the next move should be upwards. And we've done 2 zigzags here, in my opinion, which does mean that we could be looking, and we say we can push up higher, right? Like I said before, right? We can still push up higher, but we wouldn't have the right internal counts to be thinking of this as an impulsive structure, but we can definitely go ahead and add another zigzag if we wanted to. The maximum number of zigzags that you can do essentially is going to be 3. You can't really have more than 3. There's nothing more outside of a WXYXZ, right? So when we kind of think about it, we think, okay, we've had a double zigzag. We can have a triple zigzag, but we can't have a quadruple. Okay, so if we are to push up any further, it's going to basically push the limits on what we think is going to be possible. But I do think there's a push upwards here for XRP, and it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens with that. If we do go into that next zigzag pattern, it will literally mark the end of this, in my opinion. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the bigger structures, because again, it's important that we do reflect on all of the possibilities here, not just the ones that, you know, I believe are going to unfold, but the structures. Let me find this this high, but all the structures, right? It's important that we do reflect on all of them. And there we go, got it. Right, okay, let's go drag this down to the bottom, and we have our wick down at 30 cents, which, you know, I'm very fortunate that I was actually able to have a buy order on Binance to get 30 cents, because I did fill my order right there at 30 cents, and it was purely accidental. But what a way to kind of get a good entry on XRP that I still hold right now. Let's kind of get into this. Let's find this low. I'll put this on here. There we go. Okay, and we'll see where this is going, right? Because on this move to the upside here, we can see that we tapped into the 1.382, and we're lower than the 1.618, but we have got rejected here. Now, we have gone above and beyond the normal expectations, which would be between 1 and 1.236. So with the fact that we've hit that 1.382 would tell me that we have the ability to be thinking about a WX, Y, X, and Z structure to the upside. So I do think there's a bigger move up still here in play, unless proven otherwise. I think we kind of have to come down, to go back up again, and so forth. And we end up with that kind of WXYXZ kind of idea. Now, on that note, what we'd have to do is we'd have to measure that first W wave and move this over to wherever we end up with on our X wave, and then that will tell us where our Z wave is likely to go. Okay, I think it's a tad too soon because we don't know exactly how this is all going to unfold, but for now it looks very, very interesting. I'll take this off for now so it cleans up the charts, but you get the idea. I think the next big move for XRP is going to be to the upside, according to Elliott Wave theory. Let's jump over into the smart money concepts. What does smart money tell us about XRP? Is it bullish? Is it bearish? And actually, it's bullish, right? The structure here is still bullish, although it hasn't been overly impressive in the way that it's been going, but it has peaked up a little bit higher than we were expecting from previous videos. Now, we can see here that we have pulled back down into the fair value gap that was left behind after creating a couple of breakout structures as well. So all in all, it's looking pretty good here for smart money concepts on XRP. We can see that we have a weak high indicating that we have the ability to push up higher. That's good to see. We are above the equilibrium here, and I don't think there's an immediate need to come down deeper here, but again, if we do come down deeper, I would be looking at some of these lower areas as well. These areas I think will be fantastic buying areas because it would again facilitate that WXYXZ structure whilst filling out the fair value gaps in the market, looking at all these internal order blocks, lots of buying pressure down at this lower range, basically coming in at around 40 cents down towards 33 cents. So some good deals to be made there on this kind of daily chart kind of angle for XRP. Now, if I take this to the hourly charts, here we can see what's been going on most recently. We have got a bearish change of character on our hourly chart. We'll see if this is going to be sustained or not. We have obviously come down right onto the 200 EMA on the hourly chart, which happens to be falling in line just north of our fair value gap as well. So it does look like we're finding good support here. As I said, we've kind of come down to our expectations. We don't have to go down any lower. The bearish change of character usually does mean that we come back up and retest equilibrium. So we'll be back up into the kind of 53, 54 cent range. There is some selling pressure here, so it'll be interesting to see whether we can chew through it. And on the hourly chart, considering we have a bearish change of character and we have a strong high weak low situation, it is still possible that we do pull back a fraction more if we needed to. But ultimately, on the larger timeframes, things are looking a little bit more confident. On the smaller timeframes, expect some volatility over the weekend. That's kind of my read on this one. It does look like we're heading back up to the overbought area, so we could slip down a little bit further if we needed to. just into probably the fair value gaps and the little internal order block just at the bottom here. So we'll be talking about 47, maybe through to around the 49-cent range. Gives you a bit of a broad range to be thinking about here. It all depends whether or not we're going to lose that support level of the 200 EMA there. Now, as I come over into the larger time frames, obviously on the daily chart from an Elliott wave theory point of view, we can of course acknowledge that we are still inside this WXYXZ structure, and for the most part, we have just peaked up a little bit higher than our X wave was originally. So I'll be looking to see whether or not we end up, coming down just a fraction further. My thoughts and opinions here haven't really changed. On the macro side of things, we are still in a bearish state of play on like the weekly time frames. They just take a long time to kind of play out. So enjoy the green whilst it can. And I do think we're going to push up a little bit more anyway. And taking a look at this at the moment, we're talking about 25 cent through to a possible 6 cent, which I don't think will go down that far. But you kind of get the idea. It's not even that far. It's about 11 cent. You can see that the idea here is that the higher that it goes, the more we're going to be protected to a degree under a Z wave structure, but we can still see a pretty broad range here for this. But the higher this goes, the more the protection there's going to be, the higher that we'll actually end up kind of pushing this out as well too. Okay, so we'll keep a close eye on it, see how it kind of plays out. Ultimately, I think that we are lucky at the moment to kind of be pushing through this range, but we are coming up into the resistances, so just be a little bit cautious here. Taking a look at the previous areas where we were kind of seeing some buying pressure. This is going to be the interesting range right about here, about 62 to 69 cent. Seeing whether or not this previous area that was acting as support is going to still be resistance or not will be very, very interesting for XRP. But I'm going to leave the video there. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Do you think it's going straight to the moon? Do you believe that there's a date that you just, it's going to happen? They're going to flick that switch and the next thing you know is $10,000 XRP? Or maybe you're a little bit more grounded and you understand how markets work and maybe you get a good idea as to kind of where you think things are going. Let me know in the comments down below. Really interested to kind of get thoughts and opinions on it. And if you're new, subscribe. If you haven't joined us in Discord, check it out, linked in the description below. Until the next one, have a fantastic day.
We are not financial advisors, and none of what we have communicated verbally or in writing here should be considered as financial advice. It is not. Do your own research before investing in any digital asset or affiliate offers, and understand that investing in any crypto is risky. If you do, you need to be prepared to lose your entire investment. This video is for information and entertainment purposes only. All our videos are strictly personal opinions. Please make sure you do your own research and never take our opinions for financial guidance. There are multiple strategies, and not all strategies fit all people. Our videos are not financial advice.